Shanti, Sister Jayanti, Om Shanti, and welcome.
Thank you.
So lovely to have you. And I know that we have been meditating a long time together, and you taught us. And so you're going to give us lots of insights today. So, Om Shanti, everyone, welcome. We have the honor of having Sister Jayanti. She's a very busy lady. She manages several hundred centers, meditation centers in Europe and Middle East. We directly, in a way, report to her. And Sister Jayanti is a meditator for about 46, 47 years. And she also started very young. And Sister Jayanti has this special quality of really being able to take the knowledge of the East and make it palatable for the West. And as you see and hear her speak, she's really an angel. And like with all of us on the spiritual path, we've been making our effort for a long time. And I've personally seen how Sister Jayanti has been a role model for all of us young ones, although we're also getting gray hair. But yeah, really, we're very lucky to have her time today. And I really want you to take the maximum benefit from her presence and her wisdom. So, Sister Jayanti, welcome. As you know, it is about the 4 a.m. meditation, but it's not only about 4 a.m. meditation. It's also about just creating a lifestyle filled with peace. And a big part of that is starting your morning, even if it's not 4 a.m. at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., but starting your morning with that peace and meditation. So really, I'd like you, I know you have a spectrum of subjects you can talk about, but perhaps today we can just zoom in on the benefits of early morning meditation. And then please share your experiences with that too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Om Shanti to all my sisters and my brothers who are watching and listening. And it's true, the early morning hours are the most special hours of the day, I would say, because the early morning hours are the time when your mind is clear and fresh, and all the troubles of yesterday are several hours behind you, and so you don't allow those to come into your mind first thing in the morning, hopefully. And I'd like to share something that I heard about in San Francisco many, many years ago. This would have been in the early 80s. And Dadi Janki, who was the head of our organization and passed away last year, age 104. So this would have been in the 80s. And we were at the Langley Porter Institute in San Francisco. And Dadi was all wired up and they were testing her brain to see whether it was alpha rays, beta rays, what it is that she was emitting in meditation. And they asked us, they were chatting while they were setting up. So the staff asked us, what time do you all begin your meditation? And we told them 4 o'clock in the morning. And one of them made a very interesting comment. And they said that, you know, that's the time when it's easiest for people to pass on, to transition and leave the body at that time. And it's probably because the gravitational pull of the earth isn't as heavy as it normally is. It's a lot lighter at that time. So I'm not suggesting that if you sit for 4 o'clock meditation, you'll have a transition and go on. No, not at all. But it's just that the gravitational pull is not so heavy. And so it's easier for the consciousness to fly. Your body will still be alive. It won't go anywhere. It'll be here. But it will stay alive, but it won't be pulling you to the same extent. And what do I do at that time in the morning? There are two things to think about at that time. One is my own spiritual identity, and the second is my relationship with the divine. And sometimes I've even been asked, well, what if I'm a non-believer and I'm not a theist? I don't know if God exists or doesn't exist. I would say, well, the early morning hours is still a very, very good time for reflection and to get to know yourself and to go deeper and deeper within your own inner world and do whatever is needed in terms of cleaning, healing, moving forward, forgiving. All of these things can happen much, much more easily in the early morning hours. And so these two subjects, the ones who are the believers, it's these two subjects that we reflect on. And also, this is a time to strengthen my direct connection with the divine so that I'm able to connect very quickly through the day also. If I've established that link first thing in the morning, then through the day, it'll be much, much easier to have that connection and to experience the guidance, the love, the support, the protection that the divine can offer me. And so, very important to set the pattern for the rest of the day through this connection in the early morning. The other thing that's very important, and most people are not aware of this, what's happened through the period of the night when you've been sleeping, the soul has, in a way, set aside, has relinquished its responsibility. And so, yes, the autonomous system, everything on the physiological level continues, but that's the time when the soul is also resting, the body is asleep. And this is why when you have dreams, you're a little bit crazy, you know, the head of a donkey and the body of a camel and things like this, things that you see, because logic, reason doesn't come into it, because those are the very conscious attributes of the soul itself. And the soul, for a little while, has decided to rest when it needs to. And so at that time, when the buddhi, the intellect, isn't playing that role of monitoring what's going on in the mind, or even managing and controlling what's going on in the mind has a chance to go round and whirl around and go all sorts of places without any discipline being exercised over it. Do you discipline your mind when you're asleep? No, you don't. Even for people who practice mind control for a long time, but the sleep hours are the hours when the mind is set free. But the first thing in the morning, what I need to do is to again take back into my hands the reins of this wild horse, my mind. Because if I don't do that first thing in the morning and I let the mind carry on with that freedom just to roam around wherever it chooses, my day is going to be filled with chaos and havoc. But if I wake up, freshen up, and I sit and I take that opportunity to go inside, to go inwards, I see that the mind is moving around in its own sweet way or not so sweet way. And so that's the time when I say, I'm in charge once more. The soul is taking responsibility for what's going on in the mind at that moment. And as I practice reflection, meditation, concentration, that is exactly what I'm doing. I'm re-energizing my own power and using that authority to be able to stabilize my mind once again. And if I've done that, I've taken the reins back into my hands first thing, then through the day, it's more likely that I'll again be able to keep my mind in check through the day. Otherwise, if when I awaken and the mind is roaming around, I won't get that time through the day, through all my busyness and all my activity. Even during lockdown, I think people are busy. Some are even more busy during lockdown than they were before. And so that's the time to again set my mind back on track so that it doesn't play mischief through the rest of the day. So to go deep within, just to focus here in the center of the forehead and go deeper and deeper inside. And somebody said to Dadi once, "How deep is deep?" And her response was, "Go deeper till you think you've come to the limit, and then go deeper than that again." Because the soul is absolutely a tiny point of light, infinitesimal. And so how deep do I go? I go deeper and deeper till I come to that space where there's quiet, that sacred space where I, the soul, exist. How many minutes will it take? Maybe quite a while, because I'm not used to doing this. I'm used to being out there. I'm not used to introversion in this way. And I haven't had that opportunity for introspection. But now I want to have both. I want to go deep inside and I want to be able to see myself. And when I say see myself, it's not a vision. It's not a magic spark that appears or a photograph that appears, but it's a feeling of connecting with my own inner being. And in this awareness of I, the soul, the living being, the living light, the living energy, now I look at my mind and I see that my thoughts are now becoming more quiet, more focused, more concentrated, and my intellect is filled with that knowledge and now the experience of who I truly am, and also my connection with the divine. The connection is through both channels, my thoughts, but also my intellect. And so I'm connecting with the Supreme so that I can feel that flow of energy coming from the divine and reaching me. If I try to do this at any other time through the day, yes, it's important to keep connecting, but it's going to be harder work for me to do that. Because at that moment, I'm battling with all the other energies that are floating around me. Whether I'm in my office at work, whether I'm at home, whatever it is I may be engaged in, there's 1,001 distractions that can come my way. Telephone calls, Zoom calls, all sorts of things will be going on. And the vibration of the activity of the world isn't outside my home, it's entering inside my home. And not just the vibrations of all the good things that are happening within the world. And of course, vibrations can cross through walls. They're not stopped by any wall at all. But also all the negative things that are going on in the world, because those vibrations are coming at me from everywhere. How come the whole atmosphere during COVID times has been one that's quite tense and filled with fear? Some people would say, well, I'm not usually prone to being afraid, but somehow these vibrations have caught hold of me and I can't shake off that fear. And in fact, what it is the negative vibrations are actually in a way heavier than the vibrations of love and purity and joy and all the good things, because negativity comes like a sledgehammer. And so all those vibrations are coming to me also. And that's going to happen all day through the whole day. Even if I go and stay in a room alone and isolate myself, the vibrations will definitely still reach me. And so what I'm doing is early in the morning, when the rest of the world is asleep, very, very few people are awake, especially when it's still dark. Most people would be enjoying their sweetest hour of sleep, probably. Maybe they've been unable to sleep until 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. But even insomniacs, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, they're very sweetly sleeping. And so all those vibrations of human activity and action and interaction, all of that is very, very quiet, very little vibration. And so it's much, much easier for me to focus on the inner being and then to let my thoughts fly beyond the dimensions of the physical universe to the dimension beyond, the place which is actually the home of God, but also my home too. And so early morning is the best time to travel. I know that sometimes when I'm traveling between Ahmedabad and Mount Abu, and that's quite frequently sometimes, rather than travel late at night when there's heavy duty traffic and you don't know what people have been up to. Some people have been in a nasty experience, some people have been in an angry exchange, and so their driving is reflecting all of these negative emotions. You must have seen that. Late at night, my suggestion is don't go for a long drive. And so very often we decide that we'll have our early morning meditation at 4 o'clock, and then immediately after that, we'll drive. Or sometimes we even say, okay, while we're driving, we'll have our early morning meditation at that time. And the road is clear, and we get to our destination safely, swiftly, in one piece. And so, not just driving, but think about how some children, and I know I was one of those, they would prefer, rather than stay up late at night, they would prefer to study in the mornings. By the time it was 11 o'clock, I'd be really exhausted. And so I knew that the next day was something that I needed to prepare for. But I'd wake up at 3:30, 4 o'clock. This is pre-meditation days, just simply because I knew that it was a quiet time. I could focus, I could concentrate, and I'd be able to study well. And I'd have a good few hours before getting ready to go to school or college, whatever. And so naturally, in a way, some people have that habit of early rising. And you're lucky if you're one of those larks that get up early. And if you're an owl and prefer the night hours, it might be a little bit of a struggle to set your inner body clock to adjust so that then you can wake up early. But it'll happen. It's okay, because whatever it is you want to do and you're determined to do and you understand the value of it, it's okay. You fit it in somehow, you manage it. But maybe you want to practice your writing skills. Early morning is the best time to do that. Maybe you want to exercise. Early morning, again, is the best time rather than late at night. So for many, many activities in our lives, we've known through our own experience of living that the morning hours are the time when you're fresh, the world is quiet, and that's the time to achieve maximum within the shortest space of time and the least amount of energy. And so we know all these things, we're aware of them. But let me apply them to my own journey of self-transformation. All those things apply that the world is quiet, very little vibration, everything is peaceful, and that's the time when I can get to know myself. I can discover the values that lie deep within my own inner world. One of the serious problems of today is lack of self-esteem. But that's because we've not given time to ourselves to connect with our own inner goodness and the beauty that lies within, and feel the treasures that we carry within our own inner being. And sometimes people say, oh, I don't have anything of value inside. Not true, not true. Why? Because each one of God's creation is beautiful. Each one of God's creation has been created by God with that power of love in God's own image. What does that mean? It means that whatever are the attributes of the divine, human beings have been created in that image. We are the reflection of God's light, love, truth, wisdom, joy, even bliss, forgiveness, compassion. Use all the 99 names of God, or maybe think about God as the ocean of all attributes and think of all the virtues, and the list will be identical, whichever tradition it is I belong to. But think about one of these each day, early morning. Explore it and see to what extent you're able to see that reflection within yourself. And if you say, not there, that's okay. It is there. But let me spend time in company with the divine so that the influence of the divine is able to cleanse me, purify me, and heal me, and make me come to that point where truly I become a reflection of the Creator. And so this is my moment early in the morning to really go through that process of transformation, to emerge my own original, eternal, highest qualities that lie within. And just imagine if you begin the day with that connection with the peace, love, and truth that lies within you, what's going to happen through the rest of the day? You'll be able to share those qualities in your interaction with those around you. I go to sleep in a huff, I wake up in a huff, and I'm already late, and so I don't even eat the breakfast that's been prepared for me with love, or I don't have time to make myself any breakfast. I'm gulping down a cup of black coffee, and I'm racing to do all the things I need to do. Well, the rest of the day will carry on. I'll be running to try and catch my tail. I'm not going to have a very efficient day or an exquisite day or a day that's something I'd really value and appreciate. But it starts with the morning. In English, they say, which side of the bed did you get out from? And in India, they say, whose face did you see first thing in the morning? And it's that same idea that, well, maybe my bed, one side is against the wall. So if I tried to get out the other side of the bed, I'd hit my head against the wall. So it's a metaphor. But which foot did I begin with? Did I begin with the right foot or did I begin with the left foot? And so that's the idea. Who did I see first thing? And maybe I'm living on my own, so it's not a human being I see, but what is the image that comes into my mind? What is the first thought that I begin my day with? If my first thought is, oh, what a day, it's going to be heavy duty, I'm going to have to try so hard with this thing, that thing, and the other thing, the day hasn't started and I'm already feeling the burden on my shoulders. Well, how am I going to manage the rest of the day? And if I think about a human being, first thing, probably it's because either I'm very attached to them and that possessiveness is painful. It's not love. There's a lot of pain in possessiveness, attachment. And I'm sure you've experienced that at some point in your life. But we still continue to think that attachment and love are the same thing. So maybe it's that human image that comes into my mind first thing. And if it's attachment and pain rather than the remembrance of the divine, well, which way is my day going to go? Or if it's something that I'm feeling particularly engulfed in, and that image of the person who's created this problem for me, that image is the first thing that comes into my mind. Well, again, not a very happy start to the day. My happiness and my peace does not depend on whether it's a sunny day or a cool day or a cold day or a snowy day or a rainy day. It does not depend on that. It depends on what's going on inside in here. And so it's so important to begin the day well. Think about that being of light, the supreme, the divine. And if that's the first image that's coming into my mind when I awaken, my day is blessed. Truly, it's going to be a day filled with many, many blessings from the divine. And of course, if I'm experiencing blessings, what is it that I share with others around me, whether at home or at work or wherever it is I go? I'll be sharing blessings of happiness with them too. And if I'm beginning the day with a heavy heart and not a very happy start, then that'll be the same experience that I share with others. And so people may say to you, who did you see this morning to begin the day? And of course, it was all in my mind, the image that I first saw. And so there are many different things that we can do to make sure that each day is blessed, is meaningful, is valuable, and it's a day to remember with love. That doesn't mean that getting up early in the morning and everything's going to be fine and dandy and there's not going to be any problems. The problems are going to be there because that's what life is about. It's a challenge. But beyond those challenges, more important is, how is it that I'm facing those challenges? Am I able to face the challenges with a smile? And if I can keep smiling, no matter what challenges may come, I'm more likely to be able to deal with them. And so let me experience that first step in the morning in which I'm able to fill myself not only with love, not only with joy, but also with power. I remember one particular incident, and I knew that the day was going to be very challenging, and I knew that I was going to have to face several people with difficult personalities. And that morning, I specially decided I was going to sit and draw power from God. And I did this. My focus was not so much God's love, but God's power. And I hadn't thought it through as to which power, which specific aspect of power I was going to need that day. But as the day began, we had our morning class, our meditation, and then, of course, the study of the lesson that we have everywhere in the world. And then my meetings began. immediately after the morning class. And I realized that my heart had become bigger. It was as if my spirit was lighter, and I was ready to listen, and my tolerance power had increased. And so I was able to listen and absorb whatever it is that was being said. But also, there was something else that came in. And what came in was the ability to discern, because one person's saying one thing, another person is saying another thing. Now, I wasn't there to witness, and I wasn't living with these people, but who to trust, who to say, you're right, you're not right, and maybe both are right, and probably both are right in their own way. But that ability to discern beyond their words, deeper than their words, that enabled me to pick up intention. And when I was able to pick up intention from this one and from this one, then that ability to discern which direction should we take the next step was that much easier. So at the time of connecting, I was feeling this energy, this surge of power come within me. But I realized afterwards that it was actually two very different capacities that had been increased: the power of tolerance and the power of discernment. And so, having come to that state, then I knew what next steps to take. And another time, another situation, and again, it was a little bit similar, but a little bit different. I knew that two people were very much needed in that particular country, but they were at a point where either this one stays and I go, or I stay and this one goes. It was that sort of situation. And in that early morning time, I just sent them God's light to both of them. And I thought it would be a difficult meeting, but in fact, it wasn't. Somehow, they were both touched by God. And I won't say that it was just simply my meditation. It must have been their meditation too that helped them come to a happy compromise. But when we began to speak, they began to recognize each other's value and how both of them actually needed to work together because they complemented each other so beautifully. One with one particular set of skills and the other with another set of skills. But at that point when they weren't communicating, it was like there was a wall between them both. And now the wall seemed to have melted and dissolved. And so now both were able to see the value of the other and the need for both of them to come together and compromise and be willing to collaborate together and work together. So I've shared just a couple of experiences of how this early morning power works. Another way is, if you know you're going to be traveling, then just for a moment, send God's light to that place where you're going. And your journey will be safer, but also when you arrive at your destination, the place that you'd gone to would have been prepared. And whatever task it is you are going for is going to be that much easier. None of this is magic, but it's all very, very logical. Just as you till the field before you plant the seeds, in the same way, the vibrations of God's light, the vibrations of God's love prepare the field so that when you go there and you plant the seeds, the soil is ready. And so whether it's for me, whether it's for good relationships, whether it's for a task, or whether it's for peace in the world. Nothing for one individual or another individual, but the collective human family. Early morning, after your time for yourself with God, filling yourself with God's energy, God's love, then just for a moment, don't think about that particular person or situation or that place for longer than just a moment, but hold that vision of that individual or place or situation just for a moment and give it God's light, and then continue just with your normal meditation. And so definitely the early morning hours are magical, because when things happen in a very natural and easy way, we call it magic. And there are reasons why magic is working: vibrations, energy, God's power. But it seems like magic, and things happen in a very, very smooth and easy and natural way. And so my hope is that give yourself a timetable. Say, I'm going to experiment with this for 1 week and see what happens in that 1 week. And I'm sure that there'll be enough motivation for you to continue. And 1 more week, another week, take it a week at a time. Don't say, I have to do this forever. No, I'm experimenting with it. Treat it as an experiment. That's all. But I hope that you'll definitely try this and experiment with it and see where it takes you. So I've been talking about meditation, and maybe your focus is more prayer, which is fine. Let the prayer take place early in the morning again, but let it be from your heart, not just a recitation of words that somebody else has spoken or written, but your heart-to-heart communication with the Supreme in that early morning hour. And the noise of the world is less. And so God is more likely to hear you, and your prayers will reach God faster. But seriously, early morning prayer is an amazing experience. Reflection is also very powerful at that time. You read something and you want to reflect on it and ponder over it and go deeper into it. That's the time, but also meditation. So let's experiment just for a few minutes now as to what to do in that early morning period. And if you already have a set pattern, that's fine, but maybe this can also be added on to whatever else it is you're doing. So just sitting quietly, and your eyes can be open. Probably that's better than closing them, because especially early, if your eyes closed, you'll be whisked off to a land of peace, which is sleep, not meditation. But keep the eyes open, and that's better than closing them, because especially early, if your eyes closed, you'll be whisked off to a land of peace, which is sleep, not meditation. But
Sorry, that is the YouTube. We're just playing some music, Sister Jayanti. Sorry
okay.
about that. Thank you, Sister Jayanti. That was so beautiful and so nicely put and so crystal clear. Thank you so much. So let us have a few questions now. I have a few questions already. If you'd like to ask anything, you may put it on the chat. You can write it on the chat. So let me just say for those who are listening that the 4 a.m. Peace experience started because it was just to give everybody a taste of what it's like to be meditating in a group. And so if you would like to join a WhatsApp group where we are sharing experiences and also um, giving you input every few days on how to improve your 4 a.m., you can join that group, and we'll put that phone number down in the chat box. So you can just WhatsApp and join that group if you like. And we will be doing this for this month of Ramadan. We meditate every day together. I mean, we meditate at home by ourselves, but on Mondays we meditate together on Zoom. Okay. So, okay, let's have a few questions. So, gentlemen, yes, in terms of high vibration and creating high vibration, can you tell us what are the mechanics? Because we always say that the early morning time is a time for high vibration, and so it's already there. But when we sit, we connect with that high vibration. But then, how do we continue that for the rest of the day? So one is the mechanics of high vibration, and then how to continue that for the rest of the day.
But first of all, let me define what I mean by high vibration, because there are the low energies, and those energies are the energies of negativity, the anger, the greed, the lust, the ego, attachments. These are the low energies, the heavy energies that pull me down. And the high vibrations are the purity, the love, the truth, the joy, the compassion that we're able to experience from God and also share with the world. And so, yes, the early morning period is a time when it's easiest to experience this high frequency, this high vibration. And then, if I make sure that together with my time of silence, reflection, meditation, I also have some time for spiritual study. Let me find material that's going to be uplifting for me, positive, energizing for me. And if I read even a little bit for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something that's going to be uplifting, then out of that, let me keep a few thoughts that stay with me. Then I would suggest every hour, on the hour, just for a couple of moments, a couple of minutes, take time for yourself and revise those uplifting ideas. And in that time, the 2 minutes that you've given yourself, if you have more time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, even great, but even better. But we wouldn't all have that possibility. Not even living in a center do we have that possibility. But 2 minutes every hour, that's not a big deal. And so let me go inwards, connect with myself. Let me go upwards, connecting with the divine. And then let me remind myself of a few of the things that were very powerful and inspirational for me early in the morning. And so revising them in my mind in this way means that for the next 58 minutes, I'll still be on a high. I won't get pulled down by the negativity of the world around me. And people might be good, everybody is nice and polite, but yet generally the atmosphere of the world at the moment is a very negative one. It's a heavy one that's of anxiety, of worry, of fear and jealousy and all sorts of competition and things. And so if I keep myself up above for just 2 minutes, then the next 58 minutes, I won't be affected by all that negativity. And so I'll be able to keep myself safe, because if I don't protect myself in this way, somebody around me is a bit greedy, and it stirs the greed within me. I'm not a deity yet. I'm not an angel yet. And so everything is there lurking below the surface. And so somebody else's greed could trigger off a greedy reaction in me. Well, they want it, they have it. Why can't I have it too? Oh, I want to be better than them. All sorts of things can happen in a very subtle way. And so that's what I mean, keeping myself safe. If I've created that high quality energy within myself, then I see their greed and I just feel compassion for them. And I'll think to myself, God, you've given me all that I need. I really don't need another thing. You have given me plenty. You've given me enough. And so keeping myself safe means I'm keeping that energy on a very high level. And so nothing but nothing should pull me down.
Thank you, gentlemen. Yes, very clear. And just the other point also about subconscious. Again, if you can briefly touch on that, and then we'll take some questions from the chat. So there's so many sessions out there, so many experienced professionals talking about reprogramming the subconscious. From your point of view, from your several decades of spiritual experience, how can we reprogram the subconscious?
There's that level, which is my conscious thinking. But then there's another level just below that, the subconscious, which means these are the memories that are stored from infancy. And very often we are told that you're programmed for life by age 7. And I think that's more or less true, in the sense that whether it was the care and love of my parents, or the lack of care and love, or maybe it was abandonment for very good reasons, maybe, but maybe it was abandonment. So different things that I've been through in infancy and then childhood and early childhood, all of that is there within my subconscious. And it's very rare that I respond to a situation consciously. Most times, the programming of the subconscious is such that I react first and then think about it afterwards. So you say something to me, and it triggers the sense of abandonment that I had experienced as a baby. My mother thought that she was going to be doing the best for me. She left me with my grandmother, and she went off somewhere else and did other things she needed to do. But I felt abandoned. So even it wasn't a nanny or a care home or anything, it was just simply my grandmother. But the feeling I was left with was abandonment. And then as I grow up, then somebody doesn't include me in their party list, and I feel abandoned. I feel hurt. And I have all these negative thoughts that come up. Nobody loves me. Nobody cares for me. Why should I bother about them? All of these things. So that's one example of how the subconscious works. And so what we're doing in meditation is changing that pattern. Why? Because now I'm taking God's love. I'm experiencing the power of God's love. I'm experiencing how God values me and sees me with such tremendous appreciation and even respect. And so I'm now beginning to feel secure. That insecurity and abandonment begins to fade away. But I need to do this every day, because it's so easy for many years of that programming to kick in. And so I can't expect that one day's meditation is going to change that. I need to be meditating on a daily basis and again, changing the program that I've been holding on to. I don't want to work on autopilot anymore. I want to work in a very conscious way. And in that state that I would describe as soul consciousness, awareness of the inner being who I truly am. Now, same thing. I don't get invited to this coffee morning or party or whatever it is. But at that moment, I know I'm loved by God. I know I'm valued by God. And if they don't value me and love me, it's okay. No problem. I'm stable in my own state of self-esteem. And so what you have to do is to keep checking your responses. And it's not hard work, but it does require consistent attention. What is it that is reacting? The trigger might have come from outside, but it's not their fault that I'm experiencing the emotions that I'm experiencing. That's me. That's not them. The same thing might have happened to many other people, but my reactions are my own. I have to have ownership. And so let me take ownership of my own inner world and start checking out my responses. And that's the mirror of my subconscious. It's not always hidden away inside, but it's coming outside in my responses.
Okay, gentlemen, I know you only have few minutes, so maybe the next few questions can just be brief answers. So one question is, where does the soul go when we go to sleep?
It doesn't go anywhere. It's still very much there. But as I said, it relinquishes its responsibility for checking what's going on in the mind. So the intellect can rest, and then the mind has freedom.
So soul very much here in the body. Okay. The mind tends to wander a lot during the day. How did the mind become so unstable? How can I make it stable?
If you're 21 years old, how long has the mind been wandering around? 21 years, or even before birth. And so I haven't put in a lot of effort yet, have I? But this hourly checking is very, very valuable. And so find yourself a way in which you can get a signal, whether on your watch, a bleep goes off, or on your computer, there's a program that you can find, software that will bleep and tell you that it's an hour already now. And so take that time and just practice for a few minutes every hour. And of course, when you have the chance to actually be free and sit, then early morning is a time to be free. No one else wants you then. Only God wants you at that time. So 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, keep increasing your time span and just keep track of what's going on in the mind. I, the soul, I'm responsible for my thinking, for my feeling. So keep checking.
Okay, the one about traveling, I think if you hear the recording again, Jayanti explained very clearly. And because of time, I won't ask that question again. The other question is that sometimes what we see in the dream becomes exactly true. Is it a sixth sense or what?
It's true that sometimes souls can become aware of the future. It's as if there is a future that's already mapped out for us. And I know this is going to lead to many other questions, but sometimes you catch a glimpse of the future. But don't trust your dreams to that extent, because there's lots of dreams about things that may never, ever happen. So it's not necessarily true that it will happen, but just sometimes we do catch a glimpse.
Yes, and a question about children, simple ways to teach children meditation and to keep having that self check.
3 minutes at a time. just sit the child down and say, okay, we're going to go traveling for 3 minutes, and just create a little commentary in which you're carrying the child with you to that awareness of another dimension, a dimension of light. There's some books that are available. Kids Relax is one thing, and The Star Child is another thing. And I'm sure that Sister Aruna would be able to track these things down and tell you where to get them. So there are materials especially available for kids. There's another very good book, Parenting, by Diane Tillman. That again has many, many different tips for you to help your child.
And Sister Jayanti, any closing, final remarks, comments, motivational statements?
If I remember that my appointment with God is at 4 o'clock in the morning, and God, my beloved parent, my mother and father, my friend, is waiting for me, then maybe that's a very good thought to throw off the quilt and jump out of bed and be fresh and sit and have that loving experience.
Yes, I remember my mom saying something like that. That, you know, early morning time is when the treasures are being distributed, and if you're not there, you will not catch them. So thank you so much, Sister Jayanti, for being with us and sharing all your wisdom. Thank you, everyone. We have about 100 people on YouTube listening also. And those who are not meditating, maybe you'd like to start. Somebody had actually mentioned, can you tell us the benefits of 5 a.m. meditation? But it's the same as 4. It's just the earlier you start, you get a head start. Right, Sister Jayanti?
And also by 5 o'clock, the tradespeople might have started working, and their activity, their vibration is then changing the atmosphere. So the earlier, the better, because it's quieter.
Yeah. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sister Jayanti. Good night, everyone. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.